On a different note now, a Cape Town-based non-profit organization is turning the lives of prison inmates around and preparing them for life after prison. The Smiling Foundation provides personal development, leadership programs and entrepreneurial skills to inmates from as many as 42 prisons in the Western Cape. In an approach they call Circles of Change, the foundation wants to reintegrate inmates into their communities. Well, joining us now to tell us more is the founder of the Smiling Foundation, Corinna Anderson. Corinna, tell us a little more about how you work with prisons and the prisoners and the programs you run.
Well, the program, the core foundation of our program is the responsible individual. And I think what is the easiest is open a window to what we did in Goodwood Prison on Monday. So Monday we run 2 circles of sharing. We were integrating 31 new participants, went through enrollment into our program. And into the first part of our program, which consists of really discovering your self-identity, kind of lighting that light you have within and understanding who am I, why do I do what I do, and also to understand how sometimes we've imprisoned ourselves, not just because we are in prison, but because we locked ourselves up, we've locked our hearts up. So first part of the journey is really to understand more of yourself, where second part of the journey really is an opportunity to discover, so now I know who I am, where I'm actually going with all of this, and how I'm going to take that with me back into my community and my family.
And you truly believe prisoners can be turned around, or their lives can be turned around, using love and respect?
But I'm not just believing it, I know it, because I see it every single day. You know, here last week I had one calling me. He has been in our process for over a year. He was released in September 2010. He calls me and he says, you know what, Corinna, I just want to say thank you. You know, he used to be a heroin addict. I said, I turned my back on drugs. I don't do crime anymore. I have a job, and now I want to get involved with you guys. I want to help in the community, to help the youth say no to drugs and say no to crime. So I know it's working. I see it.
Is there ever a case, though, where there's a prisoner and you've tried to help him or her, and it's just, it seems to be almost a lost cause, so to speak, or have you never experienced that?
Well, I don't believe in lost causes, but I do think that some people find it very difficult to change, because it is a choice, and choice is not easy. I mean, like today, you know, when we work in reintegration, I was speaking with a parole officer, and I had to make the recommendation, actually, to recommend that one of the reintegratees go back into prison, because he's not fit for society yet. But, you know, the amazing thing about this program is that it gives you such a good feel of people. You know, you can't hide, which allows us to really help them, even if it means for a certain period to go back to prison, so that you don't re-offend or recommit or hurt other people, you know. So that's hugely valuable. But I think we can all change.
And you work with all kinds of prisoners who've committed all kinds of crimes?
Yes.
And what do you find most interesting working with these prisoners? What do you learn on a personal level about yourself?
I learn a lot. I actually think that this process has been the greatest teacher for me. You know, it's not just about me going there and saying, you know, let me show you the way, because I actually don't have their way. The responsible individual is a process that really unlocks their way, not my way. And it gives me a lot of ingredients for my own personal journey, you know, really about standing more vulnerable, understanding how strong I am as a vulnerable person as well, that it's okay to feel, it's okay to be angry, okay to be sad, and really to say, well, I can also choose change in my life. I mean, like, for example, at the moment, where we have huge challenges with funding and almost have had to close the doors, it's empowered me so much, because, you know what, I'm not just speaking on behalf of me. You know, we have hundreds of people in the process, and I'm speaking on behalf of them. You know, they've touched my life, and you know, I think it's very important.
What motivated you to start the Smiling Foundation?
The Smiling One Foundation? Well, it was actually, I came to South Africa, and I was writing the book, The Responsible Individual. I created the coach education, and I just had a strong sense and feeling of, you know, I really want to contribute, I really want to give back. And then I met a social worker in Braunfels Maximum Prison, and he saw the possibilities in the program. He took me with to Braunfels Maximum Prison. I met a group of prisoners called Group of Hope, and there, you know, I really was inspired to say, you know, these guys really want to change. How can I add value to that? I see myself as a puzzle piece. The program is a puzzle piece, and we all together make the big puzzle. And that's when we started the first pilot project in beginning of 2008. And it had huge success and potential, because we also educate coaches amongst the inmates. So they take the seed with them to other prisons. So one prison is today 7 prisons. And that's why I established the Smiling One Foundation, so that we can raise funds to help this process, not just to sustain it, but to allow it to grow.
And it involves talking to prisoners, and what else does it involve?
Well, there's a lot of things involved. You know, you really have to talk to DCS, government. There's a lot of processes with, obviously you sit in session with the prisoners, but there's a lot of coordinating of these processes. There's a lot of traveling involved. So it's really coordinating all of it. Also Western Cape, we have clearance for 42 prisons, but because of funding right now, we can only actually be active in 7. 5 of them I've had to put on hold until funding is there, you know. So we have this urgent pledge, you know, please help us, you know, get funding very, very urgently.
And how do you work, how many do you work with at one given time? I mean, do you work with all of them at the same time? Or?
Well, I think it's very important to have small groups, and you know, the power of that you educate inmates to become facilitators of the process. So for example, like Goodwood Prison on Monday, where we integrated 31 prisoners in our program. So we have one group of 8 that is taking part in part 2 of the responsible individual. Then the 31 new prisoners, they're going to be integrated into 3 different groups. One extra taking place in the morning, 2 hours, and then the next 2 hours they're going to be 2 groups of each 10, where one of the inmate facilitators will help assist one of the group facilitations.
Now you've mentioned one of the success stories, the heroin addict. What other success stories have you come across?
Well, I have one, actually one of the guys that reintegrated, Farouk, and he called me one day, and he's very active in our youth program and active in reintegrating, and he called me saying, no, Karina, I can't come today. It's a few months ago. He said, you know what, it's really been tough. He's been out for a year, and he said, you know, I ran out of toiletries and food, and I called a friend, and I'm just waiting for him here. He said he can come and help me. And then I called him a few hours later, and he was just, you know, to tears. But he said, you know what, this friend came, and he gave me 2 credit cards. You know, he said, just go, you know. He used to be in for credit card fraud. And he said, you know what, I said, that is not my journey anymore. No, thank you. Even, you know, when you are, you feel you hit rock bottom, and to be able to say, you know what, that is not my path. I choose change. I choose my heart, and I rather stay hungry. And to see him and his journey, to see how much he inspires people around him. He helps people that reintegrate, that come, you know, because they've known him inside prison, and it's hugely inspiring, you know. And today he's like, to just keep going until we have funding, because he's one of our reintegration managers. He works for 300 Rand a week to help somebody with food, just to keep himself going, but he rather does that than go back to crime. And that is for me a huge success story, because it's not easy. When you get integrated, society is not always ready for you. But you know, he knows that it starts within him, and he knows he carries this light, and he just doesn't stop believing in himself, and I'm so proud of him.
What are communities saying? I mean, do you get the community saying to you, you know, why are you working with these prisoners? We don't want them here. Or, you know, why not work with victims?
Well, we had a lot in the beginning, the first year or the first 2 years. So a lot of people say, why don't you just throw away the key? And it's such a waste of time. But I think that now that they see the full circle of how you actually utilize a potential, and many might say, well, what potential does a prisoner have? But when we talk, you know, we have huge challenges in the community with crime, with drugs, with abuse, with violence, with unemployment. And now you have people who've really chosen change, who've been rock bottom, who tried that path. They just speak a different language. You know, they come out with a different integrity and say, you know what, I did choose change. And they're not just talking it, they're walking it. And that's very, very powerful. So it's less and less people who say, why do you do it? Because they see how effective it is.
Do you think that might be the reason why you're struggling with funding, that some people don't believe in reforming prisoners, or believe, like you said, to throw away the key?
But yeah, no, I do think that. It's interesting, one politician said, a good friend of mine, he said, it's not sexy, you know, to focus on rehabilitation and reintegration politically or for many companies. However, sometimes we tend to forget that these guys or women, they come out again. You know, they're being reintegrated back into society, and what then? You know, it's very important to invest and say, how can we change? How can we assist them change? How can we offer a platform for that change so that we build a better future and safer future of tomorrow?
Now, our country's prisons have been in the spotlight recently and in the media. And from your personal experience, what do you find with the prisons in South Africa?
Well, you see, I think there are a lot of different, there's overcrowding. I think that is one of the things that is hugely challenging, also the conditions within the prisons. I do ever find, having been in partnership with DCS for the last 3.5 years, I do see that they try, and I must really say that it's not, that they don't try it, and I mean, they sit in very difficult positions also sometimes. If I just take Brownfield Maximum Prison, for example, I know there's a lot, they really want to do what they can. Just in Worcester Prison, they don't have the facilities, they really want to change. They've just launched one of the programs we work closely together with, the Group of Hope, but they don't have the facilities to do that, So I think it's again that we all get together and really see it's not just DCS problem or challenge, a government challenge. It's I think all of us, we need to look at solutions, how we can work together on it. This process is also really about seeing every challenge as an opportunity, not just as a huge problem. So how can we strengthen ourselves through this mountain that we have in front of us and grow? Because I truly believe, there's a lot of hope for us. Absolutely.
And the prisons, you've mentioned a challenge of overcrowding. What other challenges do you see are the big ones?
Well, I think, that a lot of gangsterism, you have gangsterism, you have smuggling, you have a lot of things that do take place. We do have one of our participants that always wanted to avail himself for lunch, because that's when it gets smuggled through the kitchen, So it's really also that you see it because they can't hide, And I think if you can take one person and you can inspire that personal leadership within, because it's not the members of the staff or the officials. It's very difficult to change from that side, but you have to change it on one person at a time and inspire that it could be different. And that's what I see a huge success of our programs is the inmate trainers, the inmate coaches, is that they have been in gangsterism and they choose to say, well, I don't need that anymore, because many of them get integrated because they don't feel they have a choice. Many actually get to prison and actually get more criminal, and go out with much stronger tools and criminal behavior because they feel that they won't survive or they won't make prison if they don't join the gangs. So it's really, I think, investing in rehabilitation, and that is a huge focus.
Well, Corinna Anderson, thanks for your time and good luck with the Smiling One Foundation.
Thank you.
Moving on now, in Lance's You Sport next, including a look at the Springbok and